All right, welcome back, dear viewers. It's early Monday morning, and I thought I'd record a video in response to something Professor Dungeon Master put out a little while ago about the Village of Hommlet. I just think he's wrong, and I say that with it's not easy to say because I've been following him for a very long time, since before he hit, over 100,000 followers, subscribers on YouTube. I generally agree with his takes on things, but I think he missed the point of Hommlet, and some of his arguments in support of his position, I think, are somewhat, at best, specious, fallacious. But at the end of the day, I just think he's committing like an anachronism. But we'll get into that. First, if you're new to my channel, please hit like, subscribe, bell icon. This is what I do. I play games. I record myself playing games, and I talk about those games. A lot of my actual plays have actually moved to the Mean Green Rumble machine, just to support the algorithm here on YouTube. I have a live stream with my friend Gary and sometimes Brian on Friday nights, 10:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's called The Second Watch. We talk about games, we talk about the hobby, we talk about game mastery, and sometimes we have some really cool guests like Alexander Macris and DM Scotty, for example. So we'd love to see you in chat. But yeah, I do these standalone videos, so I hope to see you in chat. I hope to see you subscribe and keep this conversation going about the hobby and game mastery. Also, real quick, because I'm really bad at shilling my own stuff, but I have Red Room products that you can get the PDFs on my itch.io page, and if you want physical copies of Wretched Folklore or Isle of the Sapphire God, you can find them at Lulu. The links will be down below. All right, so let's get started. If you've been following my channel for a while, before I kind of shifted over to the live stream format, I was doing actual plays of various games, and I ran a 3-year campaign using Temple of Elemental Evil and Lamentations of the Flame Princess as like the main game engine. It turned the game into a very dark fantasy thing, but the full Temple of Elemental Evil campaign, written by Gary Gygax, supposed to take you from levels 1 through 8, and it starts with the Village of Hommlet, and then it moves into the Mega Dungeon. I'd have to say the most fun I had in that game was the Village of Hommlet and the hex map I placed it on with other adventure locations. Because it was just very much an emergent story going on there, and it was just a lot of fun. The temple I have issues with. That'll probably be a separate video, but I'm not a big fan of the Temple of Elemental Evil at the end of the day. But Professor Dungeon Master revisited the Village of Hommlet, and I did a 2-part review series back early in my channel a couple years ago when I was still doing PowerPoints because I was a little too shy to put my face on camera. And I kind of broke down the module for everybody. I really like it. I think it's a great starter module. Yeah, you can nitpick Gary Gygax's writing, I suppose. Certainly with the Temple of Elemental Evil. Ugh. Anyway, but Professor Dungeon Master thinks the love that Village of Hommlet gets is nostalgic and not really rooted in a good analysis of the design of the module. And I'm going to strongly disagree, because I think he is committing a type of anachronism. So the Village of Hommlet was written before what has become known as the Hickman Revolution, when Dragonlance came about, and then there was this focus on linear adventure path style modules and gameplay, where it's arguably, I'm not going to get into the arguments about railroading and whatnot, but there is a path to go on. and that has dominated gameplay for a long time, and it still dominates. A lot of what's been coming out of Wizards of the Coast and Paizo are these types of adventure paths. In fact, I think they are the ones that really sort of characterized the modules as such. Before that, I think we just called them railroads, which may be unfair. That's a conversation for another video. But that's been sort of the adventure design. Right, you have a beginning, middle, and end, and how the players get there is how they get there, and the game master is required to sort of almost prognosticate what the players are going to do. Right, they're going to have to try to figure out, and if the players go really off the rails, Hickman talks about this in XDM. Bumping the players back on track using the NPCs and circumstances of the adventure, what I call consequences, essentially, of an action. Right. To get them back on track. But Village of Hommlet wasn't written this way, and I don't think you should be looking at it like that. One of the problems in this industry, especially with dungeon tubers, is that there's definitely a presentation of like a zero sum. It's either this or that, with us or against us kind of mentality when the analysis comes around. If you don't play this way, you're not playing correctly, and I think that is just a poor way of looking at it. I think you need to first identify what you're looking at. I am not going to look at Curse of Strahd the same way as I would look at the Village of Hommlet, because they're two separate play styles in mind, and you need to have that sort of understanding before you even pick up the book and start running it for your gaming crew. And I think Professor Dungeon Master made that mistake here with Village of Hommlet. Village of Hommlet is not an adventure path. It is a sandbox. It is a very small sandbox. But it is a sandbox that takes place in a village with an outside location for adventure, i.e. the Moat House. And the players are just supposed to explore it. Do they need a hook? Well, they're adventures. You're playing a sword and sorcery game. They're arriving, and they're going to start talking to people in town, and they're going to learn about this place called the Moat House. They're going to learn about this war that happened 10 years prior that brought the Temple of Elemental Evil down low, right, and defeated a cult that was running it. Maybe the cult's still there, right? That should get the players going, right? And then they start exploring, and then they hear about the Moat House, and then they go to the Moat House, and maybe if they continue going into the Moat House and then eventually make their way down into the Moat House, they discover Lareth, and they discover the cult is very much alive and well and functioning, and that there's a secret path out the back towards the Temple of Elemental Evil. So, I mean, there is a story, but it's not dominating. It's not telling the players what to do. Right, it's not an adventure path. It's more of a sandbox to facilitate the emergent story. A point that is consistently missed by people who talk about the Village of Hommlet is the implied faction play that's in there. You have the Church of St. Cuthbert, which is like lawful, right? They're like lawful, maybe lawful good type, church, right? You have Jeru the Druid, who has his own little grove, right? You have a mercenary company that's taken up residence there, and that burns badgers. There's, of course, the cultists hiding out in the trading post, spying on everybody, and they're like high-level assassin-type characters. And then you have the people of the village who have picked one side or the other. I mean, one of the criticisms was there's not enough explanation or description of these houses, and you don't have names. I'll get to that in just a second, but I think you got all the description you need. You got who's there in terms of like level and capability, what treasure is there, right? And who they're aligned with. That they'll say the door has like a wreath or something of the old ways, meaning they're aligned with Jeru, or it might have like a Church of St. Cuthbert symbol or something, right? So there's this faction play, and who knows what does that even look like? I mean, that's up to you, the game master. Like for me, I mean, I was playing more of a dark fantasy thing, but where the church was very much anti anything magic, anything that's not the church. So there was like this tension between Jeru and the church, right? And the only faction sort of keeping everything neutral was Burns Badgers, right? I should say keeping the balance, right? The balance of power. They were sort of like making sure all-out war didn't break out in Hommlet, right? This didn't come up in my play, but there's even a mayor who has a city council, and all these major players are a part of it. I think the faction play gets ignored, and unfortunately, and I think there is a huge source of adventure there. You have a lawfully aligned group. They go to Church St. Cuthbert. The church started asking them questions to help them out. Maybe they find the cult, whatever, or they know the cult's there. They just don't know where, and the players have to go and do some investigating. Maybe they end up getting on the wrong side of Jeru or Burns Badgers, and next thing you know, some fights are breaking out. I mean, why else did we have the Welcome Wench, the Church of St. Cuthbert, Burns Badgers Tower, the Tower of Burn, right? And the trading posts mapped. Those are mapped for a reason. Why are they mapped? Well, because those are going to be sources of adventure. It's just, what do you, the game master, want to do with it? What does you, the game table, want to do with it? So I think, sadly, that was misunderstood, or at least overlooked. And, you got the information that you needed for this module. You don't need names for everybody. I mean, we're going to name every single goblin and orc and bugbear. No. We just need the major players, such that information can be gathered from them. We see that there's like this secret alliance among some of the named characters in trying to root out the cult. I mean, it's all there if the players want to engage with it. That's the thing. It's all a big if. You don't have to go on the quest. You could show up to the Village of Hommlet, which kind of happened with my players initially. They bought a few things at the trading post, thought the guys were a little weird, and then they started hex crawling and eventually made their way to the Moat House. It wasn't until later in the campaign that things started happening in Hommlet. But it's not an adventure path. You don't need like this intricate plot hook about saving the beleaguered people of Hommlet from the evil temple and Moat House. And no, you show up and you do what you're going to do, what your player's going to do. There's a story, I don't know how true it is, but James Raggi, author of Lamentations of the Flame Princess, when he ran this, his players were the bad guys and sacked the town. Like, they just went through and just burned it to the ground, taking all the treasure that was there. I'm sure they gained some levels in doing it, right? So, like, that's the point of emergent play. There's no real prompt. Okay, there's no real prompt directing you to go do a certain thing. Okay, and I think that's where he kind of made his major misstep in his analysis. I really do. Now, to be fair, I do think Gary Gygax's writing is not all that it's cracked up to be. I don't buy into this whole high Gygaxian nonsense. I think he could have written clearer. I mean, we are talking about a game. Games have rules. Rules need to be clearly stated. That's just me. Well, no, I think that's absolutely 100% correct. Like, if you're not going to clearly state your rules, you're not a very good rule writer. You might be a good game designer, but you might want to hire a writer to help you clear up the language. And, one final point. This is not nostalgic for me. I never played this back in the day. I got started with Beckme, the Red Box, and then like within 18 months at most, I moved on to second edition Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, and because I read Dragonlance, and I played that adventure path style for decades. I had a campaign that I made myself that was a 10-year long campaign, had beginning, middle, and end. The players were doing things and kind of extending the ending, right, before we got there, but things were happening, and I would react to them as they went along with this like epic quest thing that I came up with, and it was fun and it worked, and that's why I don't necessarily agree with all the OSR anti-adventure path stuff, because I have demonstrable evidence that it's fun to play that. So I think the more interesting question is, why was it fun? Like, what made that fun? And analyzing that will make you a better game master. Discounting it because you don't like it, you're just short-sighting yourself. And sadly, I feel Professor Dungeon Master did the exact same thing here. It wasn't an adventure path, so therefore it's not a good module. And the only reason why we like it is nostalgia, but that's not true. I didn't play it back in the day, and I wanted to play it, and I absolutely love it. I love it so much that I'm going to see if I can. There it is. See that right there? That's the Village of Hommlet, framed. A buddy of mine gave it to me as a gift because he knew how much I liked it, so I framed it. But anyway, that's all I have to say. Sorry, Professor Dungeon Master, you're wrong. Respectfully disagree. Again, if you made it through this video, please hit like, subscribe, bell icon, yada, yada, yada. And I hope to see you on the second watch this Friday, 10:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9:30 Central. Take care, everybody.